Welcome to the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast, building experiences that connect, remove friction, and deliver insights. Well, hi everyone, and welcome to our podcast. I'm Ed Kless, and with me today is Alex Kinnier. As the co-founder and CEO of Upside, Alex is working to personalize brick-and-mortar commerce to help companies thrive. His success in growing Upside into a company thriving was informed by his years of experience leading product developments at teams at Opower, Google, and Procter Gamble. Outside the office, Alex is an ardent technologist and investor, always on the cutting edge of products with the potential to change the world. Alex, welcome to the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, first off, Alex, why do you do what you do?
So in building Upside, which is what I spend all of my time doing, at the heart of it is growing up in a really special town called Doylestown. It's outside of Philadelphia in Pennsylvania, and it's a picture book town, much like the towns that probably everybody listening to you grew up in. And it's made so special by the people in that town and also the businesses in that town. And I had the opportunity to be out at Google working there for many years. And during that time, we were developing platforms that we take for granted today that measure what you do online and personalize the experience so that you are constantly getting more value and more interesting things are happening for you in your online experience. And I saw through this personalization and measurement online how much more value was created for the people using or consuming that content and the providers of that content. And there's a famous guy named Hal Varian, is the chief economist of Google. And he wrote a bunch of papers about how this concept of what I describe is called economic efficiency, and how in the online world it is always increasing, but in the offline world, everything is static. And I kept thinking about Doylestown and these amazing businesses and the people interacting there. And all of their experiences when they go into those businesses are static, right? You and I both walk into the grocery store and the shelves are the same for both of us. That's inherently economically inefficient because, you know, what you like might be at the front of the store, but what I like might be at the back of the store. And that time difference is just one example of economic inefficiency. And so I wanted to try to create a digital layer that could be overlaid across all brick and mortar commerce so that when you interacted with that merchant in their store, you could get more value out of that experience and the merchant could get more value out of it. So both sides winning with that. An example would be seeing what you are buying and not buying and changing the discounting for you so that it makes it more attractive for you to buy something from them. For instance, you go to your grocery store, but you don't buy your paper towels there because it's cheaper at Costco. Well, if we know that about you, Ed, we could change the discount for you so it's more cost effective for you because you're there to buy the paper towels, and that makes the merchant more money and gives you more purchasing power. It's just one tiny example of the many things that we do. And so we do what we do because of the measurable benefit that we're able to drive merchants and the measurable benefit we're able to provide consumers. And in times like this, it's really hard in the brick and mortar world, right? Brick and mortar is, I think, core to our society, but it is definitely, like, I don't want to live in a world where brick and mortar isn't thriving. I do love things being delivered to my home, but there's a lot of things I want to be out and interacting with people. And I believe in that world, and we're trying to deliver technology and value that makes that world more sustainable and better for all involved.
Well, when you've been starting companies, what are some of the things that you think are important for people to keep in mind?
So there's a couple of rules of thumb I have. So the first is make your impact worth the effort. So what do I mean by that? It's really hard to start something new that hasn't been done in the world. That's the reason why it isn't being done. And there's a high probability of failure in doing that. So there's actually, there's a high probability of failure if you start if you're trying to solve a small problem, as there is a high probability if you're trying to solve a big problem. So if the probability of failure is so high, make the impact, if you overcome those probabilities of failure, make the impact worth it, right? Worth it for the world around you, worth it from your time expenditure. So so go big on the problem you're trying to solve. So that's number one. Number two, from day one, prioritize measurement. Why? Because when you're working on something really, really hard, it's so easy to kind of drink your own Kool-Aid, right? Because you're spending all your time on it. And I find a lot of entrepreneurs get themselves in trouble because they lose track. And because they're not measuring, is something working or not working? It is through measurement you can make better decisions. So that'd be number two. Number three, ensure mutual benefit. What do I mean by that? There's a lot of people who start businesses or try to start businesses where it disproportionately helps different parties that you're dealing with. And when the benefit is not mutual and proportional, things get out of whack really quickly. And so you'll see business models die quickly when that isn't there. So I always look for and always try to push people, ensure mutual benefit. Everybody has to be winning in the equation that you're trying to deliver to the world. Maintain focus. There's so much noise and challenges coming at you when you're trying to start something new. And so maintain focus on what you're measuring, maintain focus and measurement on the biggest goal that you're trying to achieve. So you're always moving forward on that. And then lastly, surround yourself with people who are really, really good, but also makes it enjoyable. And usually enjoyable comes with good. It's best not to do this with your best friends because that might seem enjoyable on day one. But for the long run, it is way better to be surrounding yourself and you will enjoy it much more if you're with team that is extraordinarily talented and delivers. And if you do that, then you will enjoy the time working towards this really big goal.
And Alex, we have a question that we ask all of our guests, and that is, who is a hero of yours and why are they a hero?
This is deeply personal for me. My hero is my mom. Single mom, raised me, and she built everything we had with her focus and grit. And that grit, it not only made her strong, but it also made us strong. And I've worked to try to take that grit with me and that strength in everything I've built in my life, including here at Upside. And focus and grit is one of the core characteristics we search for in every one of our team members. Because when you're doing something new in the world, it's not always easy. And so people who can push through that and see the bigger picture of where it's going and move something towards that takes real grit. And those are the best types of people to be surrounded by.
And lastly, Alex, how can somebody contact you?
That's pretty easy. You can contact me on LinkedIn or DM me on Twitter, and check out upside.com because we are hiring.
All right. Alex Kinnier, co-founder and CEO of Upside, thanks so much for being a guest on the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.
Thank you.
Review and subscribe by searching your podcast player of choice for Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.